In the Know, a radio program talking to the newsmakers in Ogle, Lee, DeKalb counties and beyond, keeping you in the know. Here's your host, Charles Van Horn.
Good morning. Joining us in the studio, it is Rochelle City Manager Jeff Fiegenschuh. Good morning.
Good morning, Charles. Nice to see you. I appreciate the invite.
Now, to start things off, City Manager of Rochelle, for those of you who aren't familiar with what a city manager does, it's pretty much the CEO of the community and then some. And I have to say, the numbers that get thrown around for a city, even just the size of Rochelle, is amazing. That is a lot of responsibility that you've taken on behalf of the taxpayers to make sure the dollars are spent wisely. Not only that, but to make sure that the city is operating in every facet of city government. And to talk about that, the first question is, the backbone of the city is, I suppose, the infrastructure. How do you feel Rochelle stands with their infrastructure right now?
Very good. I agree with you. The backbone of the city is the infrastructure. Also, I would say good leadership, and we have an excellent mayor and city council that want us to focus on infrastructure. And when we did our strategic plan originally back in 2018, we had 5 priorities or focus areas, and one was infrastructure effectiveness. So we've spent quite a bit of time and resources and staff talent in bringing that to fruition. So, you've been attending these meetings. You see what we're spending money on. New substations, upgrades to our wastewater treatment plant. We're going to be repainting the water tower. We've got a new well coming online with an iron removal system. And that's just on the utility side. We've got multiple street and sidewalk projects. And then other infrastructures downtown, we received a grant to do some upgrades downtown to put in some restrooms and things like that. So, a lot of focus and time is on infrastructure, because if you want people to move to your community, if you want your community to grow, you can't do that if you don't have effective infrastructure, right? You can give tax, and I'm not advocating we give tax incentives, but you can give everything away to a business to come to your community, but if you can't effectively serve them power and water and sewer, and you don't have, infrastructure is also people. You don't have a good police force and fire force, they're not going to come. So we've got all of those things, and I'm super proud of our accomplishments over the last, 6.5 years.
It is quite the balancing act, of course, because there's, I assume with any sort of thing involving the city, everybody wants to spend money on something.
Or they don't want us to spend money on something.
But if the checkbook was bottomless, if you could make the world happen tomorrow, what is one thing you would love to have Rochelle finish, be done with, and have it paved in gold, so to speak?
I would find a way to ensure that our ratepayers aren't stuck paying for a power plant that they can't use in the next 10 or 15 years. And I would continue the Highway 251 corridor. We're working with IDOT on that reconstruction. Would try to find a way to move it up more quickly, because that is an essential part of our infrastructure, and quite honestly, the road's falling apart. And I would ensure that we have 100% reliability in our electric department.
Well, I will be buying a scratch-off lottery ticket to help those dreams come true.
Thank you.
The water tower, going to get painted.
Yeah.
It's certainly not looking the sharpest, let's be honest.
Yeah.
And you get to see it. It's showcased right there as you come over the bridge. You get to look at it nice and close.
Yeah.
What colors are there going to be? What's it going to look like?
I can't answer that. We've asked the council we've sent a couple of concepts to the city council, and there's 2 of them that I think that they liked. And so Jenny will put something out on Facebook and get the community's input, and we'll go with whichever one that the majority of our residents want.
I'm hoping bright purple.
Well, we've talked about purple. And I know, so look, I've been here 6.5 years, and I understand people, we're the hub community. I completely get that. And so obviously we want to make sure our community is happy. The number one priority is it's a water tower. It needs to be effective. It needs to be cleaned. It needs to be able to hold potable water to serve our residents and serve our businesses. Beyond that, I have no stake in the game. I just want a water tower that continues to be effective and serves our residents. But yes, we've asked council for some input, and we'll ask the community. And my thought would be we'll go with the majority of what the community wants.
What about a big portrait of me? on the side of the water tower?
I don't. Well, I don't know. Do we have to have copyright or something like that? Yeah. I mean, hey, if you want to, if you want to be like Verizon and pay to be up there, we'll put
if
you
that
up there.
lottery ticket comes through, you're going to put my picture on that water tower, okay?
For the right amount of money.
City Manager Jeff Fiegenschuh joining us. You've been here, you said 6.5 years.
Yeah, 6.5 years.
This is, as I mentioned at the start of the show, it's like a CEO position. I mean, you really have so many different parts of the city that you're sort of overseeing and making sure all the pieces work.
Right.
When you got into becoming a city manager, what was one part of the job you didn't realize was going to be one of your responsibilities? What was something that all of a sudden you were like, oh, I have to do this now?
I guess I kind of, when I went through grad school, they do a very good job of preparing you for all the different issues. Of course, that was back in 2000, and I started graduate school in 1999, so a lot has changed in the last quarter of a century. But I would say just dealing with people.
Yeah.
People are the best part of the job, and sometimes dealing with people it's not the funnest part of the job. And I'm sure people that work with me say that about me too. I mean, dealing with people, you deal with personalities, you deal with different priorities, and so just making sure that you treat everybody fairly, and you do the best you can to serve everybody that you work with. But people, it's the best part of the job, but sometimes it's the most frustrating and challenging part of the job. Beyond that, everybody looks to city government to solve all their problems. And I'm not saying the city government shouldn't be part of the solution, but there's a lot of things that we're required to do that are dictates from the state or the federal government, to like spending money. This last night, the phase 2 of the wastewater treatment plant, which is primarily to remove phosphorus from our water to get to a level that's acceptable by the EPA. I mean, that's a mandate. We don't have a choice. We have to follow those mandates. So when you get into the profession, you don't really think about those types of things. That's all a learning curve and a learning experience. And then, again, I've been doing this now for 20 years. The country, everything was different than it is now. And so managing in today's political environment sometimes can be challenging. But Rochelle's a great community. And one of the reasons I really don't ever want to leave, I hope that the mayor and council continue to be happy with my leadership and I get to stay. But Rochelle's a very politically stable community. And even when people don't agree, everybody wants to move the community forward, and it's just a great place to work and live, and I'm very blessed. I count my blessings every day for being here.
We touched on this before. You said about infrastructure and growth. Growth is something that Rochelle, I think, is kind of known for. I mean, you guys talk about square footage. Things are always expanding. Things are always getting larger. The next big project, what is the next big either industry moving into the area, the next big thing that's rolling out, things that maybe you're not even in control of but just are aware of? What do you see being the next big thing for Rochelle, like in 2025, 2026, 2027?
So first of all, I would say growth is important, but it needs to be manageable growth. Growth unfettered can be a problem because you have to make sure you keep your infrastructure up with the growth. Otherwise, all you're doing is hurting the people who are here paying the bills now.
If you can't flush the toilet, you're unhappy.
Right. Or if you recruit new business and you don't have the electric infrastructure to manage it, you're doing nobody any favor. So manageable growth. So obviously we've got a couple of housing developments going on. We do have a business that's looking at locating in Rochelle. I can't get into too many specifics. So I think that there's a good chance that we're going to see another facility, kind of a manufacturing commercial type facility locating here. We have some interest in the Old Sullivan's building, and that's one of the reasons we're talking about creating a TIF out there. So I do, hopefully, knock on wood, we'll see something take place out there. And then obviously in the downtown, we continue to move forward with promoting the downtown, but now focusing on all our corridors. I think every corridor to the community is extremely important, and there's just lots of little projects going on. Like you don't think about it much, but this next year when we reconstruct the 20th Street and Flag Road intersection and re-signalize it and put in turning lanes, it's gonna increase the safety. That's not what you would call a sexy project per se, but it's a huge project, and it's going to be a huge benefit for not just the community, but people who have kids that go to school out there, for the assisted living facilities out there. Anybody who travels that intersection will see a big improvement. So, but I do think we're going to see some pretty significant economic development projects in the next couple of years, building on the success of the last few years. Wheatland Tubing. I mean, let's not forget that the city was instrumental in bringing Wheatland Tubing here, and we worked very hard to expand that enterprise zone to benefit them, and they've been a great corporate partner, and they're very active and engaged in the community. So we've had successes. We'll continue to build on them. The other thing I would just say is I've always preached that retention is as or more important than bringing new business to the community. We can bring all the businesses we want, but if we don't retain what we've got, and those people have been here paying taxes, paying utility rates, being involved in the community for years. So sometimes too much attention is focused on recruitment and not enough on retention. And we need to continue to thank our businesses who've been here, paying their taxes, and supporting our community, because without them, we wouldn't be here.
You live and work in Rochelle. If you are somebody who's a resident here or a business owner here, and they know how to get a hold of you if they have something that they want addressed.
Absolutely.
What is something that the residents and the business owners can step up and volunteer to do to help out the city? I know we have a bunch of great public events that always need business and people supporting it. But are there other things, other ways that the average resident or the business owner can help either promote Rochelle or help out the city?
I think there's a variety of ways. Everybody wants to help out in their own way, so I don't want to box it in and maybe just talk about the organizations I'm involved with. I would just encourage people to volunteer and be engaged in whatever makes you happy and fills your spirit with joy, whether it's through your church or I'm involved in Rotary. I'm on the Community Foundation board. I'm involved with the Chamber. I volunteer on a couple other committees. I was just at a Lincoln Highway Heritage Festival committee meeting last week, and they need volunteers badly. I mean, once that group is done volunteering, who's going to move it forward? I think sometimes people take for granted that these events happen, and they don't realize that at some point those volunteers, and they are volunteers, they're not paid, might decide, hey, I've got other things I want to do with my life. So just be involved in anything that makes your heart happy and fills you with joy, whatever that is, because whether it's church or the PTO or whatever, if you're helping other people, you're helping the community.
Now the toughest question I've got for you.
Yeah.
And I've been working on this one for a while. I know this is really going to put you on the spot.
Yeah, that's all right.
Which actor is the best Batman actor?
Oh, my gosh. So I actually... I talk to myself and God about this a lot, just our little conversations, because I love Batman so much. I grew up, so honestly, I got to know Batman through the Adam West Batman. Yeah. And I love watching those. I follow those reels on Instagram. He's funny. I watch that and I'm like, I can't believe how cheesy that is. It's a tie. I love Christian Bale. I think he's an amazing Batman. I was kind of leaning on, I think Ben Affleck is a great Batman because he portrays the more brutish Batman from the Frank Miller graphic novels. But it's actually a tie between Christian Bale and Robert Pattinson. I love the fact that Robert Pattinson's Batman kind of follows the year one trajectory, and he's more of a detective than a go beat him up kind of guy. So it's a tie between them, but if I had to pick, it'd be Christian Bale all the way.
See, there you go.
Yeah.
That's the kind of hard-hitting questions that we get.
And I'm sure everybody in Rochelle is now, their life is complete because they know the city manager prefers Christopher Nolan's Batman.
You are never seen without your Batman mug.
I love my Batman. I love it. Well, yeah, I love Batman. I love Star Wars. I think it's important in any profession that you have something outside of that profession that makes you happy and keeps you sane. And so when I'm, not thinking about work, which I do a lot, I like to travel and spend time with my family, and I'm nerdy. I collect Star Wars stuff, and I get into that stuff. There's a nostalgia there because it takes you back to when you were a kid, when things seemed to be happier and simpler in life. And my daughter, whenever we go out of town, I make her listen to this Rebel Force Radio podcast, and it's a Star Wars podcast, and she's like, she puts her earphones in, and she's like, I can't do it. But yeah, no, you find things outside of work that make you happy, and you focus on them.
Nerding out right now, Jeff Fiegenschuh, city manager of the city of Rochelle. The Val Kilmer fan club is on line one, by the way. They have some words for you.
Well, I'll tell you, one of the best documentaries I've ever seen was the Amazon Prime documentary of Val Kilmer and his career. And I didn't even think about him. He was only a one-time Batman, but he was pretty good.
Yeah. So thank you so much for joining us this morning, learning about the city, learning about Batman. Next time you're on, we'll have an even tougher discussion about the best Jokers.
Okay, Heath Ledger, but okay.
Oh, wow. Just right off the bat,
Absolutely.
Huh? Wow. No love for Joaquin Phoenix, huh?
He's all right, but no, Heath Ledger all the way. That Joker only made it to where he's at because Heath Ledger laid the ground.
See, now we're ruining spoilers the next edition of the show.
Right.
Thank you so much for joining us. Jeff Fiegenschuh. You'll find this online at the Super Hits 93.5 YouTube channel, and we'll be back next week. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Charles.
Thank you for listening to this week's In the Know. The program returns next week at this time with another great conversation with someone from your community.